The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show.
The day is Monday, July 19th, 2021. Thanks so much for joining us. It's important that we understand the lay of the land and what we're fighting for and what we're specifically fighting against. Right now, we are fighting against not only institutional forces that are blocking us from being able to get what we need to protect the voting rights of all Americans, but specifically Black Americans. We are fighting against institutional forces, but we're also fighting against technology. Today is our first day back streaming on YouTube after a week-long suspension over, well, it doesn't really matter. We'll get into the details, but specifically, Black people are fighting both institutional forces and technological forces in order to get liberation in this country. Let's talk about that today. Up first, on the clock with Georgia Ford.
Democrats are fighting to end the filibuster, and many are seeing Majority Whip James Clyburn leading this charge. There's been a renewed sense of urgency to end it, and Clyburn has not wavered in his distaste for it. In fact, recently he started to push even harder and get people to understand while it might not happen overnight, and this is a fight that we have to be committed to in the long haul, he says that it's worth the fight. Take a listen to what he had to say recently when he was asked about the filibuster.
Yes, the filibuster. I'm like, I think it's a relic of the Jim Crow era and should be gotten rid of. However, if you can't do it in one fell swoop, do it as we did the Civil Rights Act. We got the Civil Rights Act passed in 1964, and we didn't get the voting rights until 65. We didn't get a fair housing law until 68, and none of it will apply to the public sector as it relates to employment until 1972. So for an 8-year period, we did that. So I would hope that's what Rahm Emanuel was talking about. I certainly think of it that way. I thought the same thing we were passing the Affordable Care Act, and I said so at the time. So this that's not a substitute for, that should be in addition to.
And Ben, I know that this is something that you've done extensive coverage on. Do you know why all of a sudden there's this renewed sense of urgency to end the filibuster?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's literally aligned with everything that that we've been covering for some time. The constant attack on the voting rights of Black people specifically. I want to be sure about that. The rights that are being targeted disproportionately by Republicans all across this country are the voting rights of Black people and our ability to secure the future against the conservative movement. And they saw how we came out in January of 2021 for the special election in Georgia for Ossoff, John Ossoff, and Reverend Raphael Warnock in the state of Georgia, and won. They saw how we came out in 2020, in November of 2020, and defeated Donald Trump. And so they are doubling and tripling down all across the country to ensure that they make it more difficult for us to go out and vote. And if the Senate Democrats do not do away with the filibuster, then we are going to see these pieces of legislation that passed all around the country stand. And then so by the midterms of 2022, that means Republicans across this country would have taken every step humanly possible to prevent Black people from voting and securing our political power. So it is incumbent upon Democrats in the Senate to do away with the filibuster. What Clyburn is talking about there is making an exception, like a carve out. And so we can get into the particulars of his strategy versus like the real strategy of getting rid of the filibuster altogether. But he is making an effort to try to secure the voting rights of Black people across this country.
Yeah, and I'd love for you to elaborate on that. From my understanding and hearing the whole conversation, because I know we only played a clip, in terms of the filibuster amending the Constitution, he was saying he was against that, but in certain situations of reconciliation, it wasn't that big of a deal. But from your perspective, what is it going to take in order for this to be done away with?
Yeah, we're still dealing with Kirsten Sinema and Joe Manchin, and I think they are just two of probably about 8 Democrats in the Senate Democrats who will stand in the way of doing away with the filibuster because they are putting up this fear, this false alternative, this false choice between the filibuster and democracy. Took me a second to get it out, but that's exactly what Joe Manchin and Kirsten Sinema are doing. They're creating a false choice between the filibuster and democracy. What they're not telling us is that on the opposite side of their choice is democracy. What Joe Manchin and Kirsten Sinema and a couple of other Senate Democrats are doing, they're saying that it is more important to them that they secure the institution of the filibuster, which is not constitutional, mind you. It is not constitutional. Right. It is a Senate rule. And they are saying they are choosing a Senate rule over democracy itself. And so Kirsten Sinema and Joe Manchin, they are a serious problem, and they are not a problem that we should forget. If they stand in the way of us getting rid of the filibuster, we need to hold that grudge until it's time to vote them out of power.
Well, in some regard, it just feels like it is an extension, a strategy extension of what we saw on January 6th. It feels like a direct attack on our democracy.
Yeah. No, I love that. I love that. I love how you just framed that, right? Because it shows us that Joe Manchin and Kirsten Sinema are literally on the wrong side of history here. Any Democrat who is standing in the way of us doing away with the filibuster altogether, because Republicans have shown that they are masters of using the filibuster to stop progress and to get what they want. They will use a filibuster when it suits them, and then they will ignore the filibuster when it suits them. This is how they passed using reconciliation. This is how they passed the tax breaks of 2017, which gave trillions of dollars to corporate America and to billionaires. Right? They ignored the filibuster then. They didn't care, but now they're pretending like it's the most sacred and hallowed institution. Therefore, it is directly tied with the tactics of the Republican Party in their attempt to overthrow democracy by any means necessary. If democracy stands in the way of Republican and conservative power, they will overthrow democracy. Kirsten Sinema and Joe Manchin are in league with that because they're standing in the way of us getting rid of the filibuster.
You know, the last thing I wanted to address here, I thought it was very interesting that Majority Whip Clyburn talked about the process in which the civil rights era unfolded. And so in 64 and 65 and 68, and I feel like with our generation and younger generations, you know, some of us don't quite understand that it's a marathon, right? And that it's not something that's going to happen in one year, in one election, that in order for us to truly see an end of the attack on our voting rights, in order for us to see the police accountability that we've been pushing for, in order for us to see the change that we have been advocating for our liberation, as you said, is going to take more than just 1 or 2 years of pushing. And I thought that was great perspective from Clyburn.
I think he's partially right and he's partially wrong. I agree with you on the part that he's right on. This is a marathon. It really is. And I would, notwithstanding Clyburn, I would extend that same sentiment towards everyone. We can't get in this fight expecting to get quick results because the way this institution, you got to think of America as a giant freighter on the ocean. It takes a lot of energy to move this vessel towards the left or the right. But what we've seen in this country is that Republicans have mastered the art of grabbing the wheel of this democracy and hitting it hard right, not concerned whatsoever about the damage that it does to the entire institution. And so the way I disagree with Clyburn is that Republicans are not taking their time with what they want. So we cannot afford to think that the right strategy is to intentionally take our time because it previously took us a long time. It is not taking Republicans a long time to get these tax breaks. It didn't take Donald Trump a long time to stack the courts. It didn't take Republicans a long time to execute their 50-state strategy to get rid of voting rights for Black people. So we cannot simultaneously expect for us to be able to respond in kind if we are taking a backseat kind of, laissez-faire approach. Let's give it time. Republicans aren't giving us time to triangulate. We got to fight.
I love that analysis, and I think that's part of the reason why I was frustrated when you look up. It's been a year since George Floyd was killed, and there's the George Floyd Policing Act still hasn't passed.
Yeah,
Because it can be done, and we've seen it done for other issues, but unfortunately, when it's issues pertaining specifically to the Black community,
that's right.
seems like we get pushed to the back burner.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We are always asked as Black people in this country to be patient. Um, Patience is a virtue. I need to encourage people to the left of me to understand that this is a long, protracted fight. But I think I also want us to realize where we are in that fight. We cannot fight with the mindset of 1964, 1965, 1968, 1972 as Clyburn. Those fights were valiant. They did tremendous things for Black people in each and every one of those iterations that Clyburn mentioned. However, we are not in 1964, 65. We're in 2021. And in this year, Republicans are perfectly okay with more than 600,000 people dying from COVID-19. In fact, that's not enough. They're still pushing to end all mask mandates around the country. So we're dealing with sociopaths. I know we were dealing with racists in 65, but we're dealing with sociopathic racists in 2021 that are willing to see this entire country burn and march up the steps of the Capitol on January 6th. I think we need a little bit more urgency, the sense of urgency, the urgency of now.
Absolutely. Well, I want to pivot here. There was a new ruling that came down from a judge regarding the federal DACA program. Take a listen at some of the changes that are being pushed through now.
Federal judge in Texas ordering the government to stop accepting new applications for the DACA program, which protects young undocumented immigrants who came to the U.S. as children. The judge calling the program illegal and ruling that the Obama administration did not have the legal authority to launch it. The program offers work permits and protection from deportation. The ruling does not immediately affect the 616,000 DACA recipients who are currently enrolled.
Now, we've seen the number of arrests at the U.S.-Mexico border reach its highest level in more than a decade. So an increase in arrests. In addition to that, I thought it was interesting. The judge who made this ruling was appointed by the Bush administration. And we know that Biden, to some degree, has some allegiance and alliance for the programs that were put in place by the Obama administration since he was a part of it. And this was one that they advocated for a lot. And so this is a blow to Biden. But more importantly, when you look at the fundamentals of America, the fact that this was a country that was founded on immigration, right? People who weren't from here coming here. And so every time that I see rulings that are made or a push to end immigration, especially when you're talking about children, it feels like it is contradicting the foundation of our country.
Oh, yeah. Oh yeah, see, I was I'm looking up a little bit more information on Judge Andrew Hannon, and that's the judge that made this ruling. It's a 5-page ruling, basically saying that you already went over it. They have no problem with that hypocrisy. How many white Americans, European Americans came through Ellis Island without any difficulty whatsoever? At that time, they cherished the idea of give us your tired, your huddled masses that's enshrined on the side of the Statue of Liberty. But now once the hue and the complexion and the melanin in the immigrants started to change, then all of a sudden it changed from give us your tired and huddled masses to stay away. This is hypocrisy. It is an effort by Republicans and conservatives. And I want to make one distinction here. This is not all Republicans, not all conservatives, but I find quite an overlap in the Venn diagram between conservatism, republicanism, and white supremacy. And this is their effort to make sure that this country does not brown sufficiently. They want to make sure that this country stays white because they understand the numbers game, and they understand how democracy works, which is why they're willing to toss away democracy if they must.
And the thing about this program is it is a protective mechanism for people who are brought here under the age of 16. And think about that. If you're under the age of 16 and you're in America, you were brought here by your parents. You didn't really come here by choice, right? And so why should children be penalized? And so I think to me, when there's a tax against other forms of immigration, that's one thing. But this feels like something totally different when you're attacking children who didn't really have a choice to come here in the first place. And sometimes you're talking about kids who are 2, 3, 4, 5, who've been here 2 decades, and then they're pushed out. They're just as much Americans as we are. And so it just feels like having this program in place, it makes sense, and it gives people an opportunity to truly gain their citizenship. Um, go ahead. What are your thoughts on that?
I think when you look at the targets of this, one, Joe Biden is going to appeal this, which is the right thing to do, obviously. To target the children, it is to say that we want to undermine the very concept in your mind of being able to get some stability and some refuge from the very countries that the United States has been involved in undermining and destabilizing. You got to understand, a lot of people who come to this country from Central and South America, they're coming here because of American foreign policy. Let's be clear. The reason their countries are destabilized in so many cases, not every single one, but in too many cases, we've seen their countries and their nations be destabilized. And so parents have to flee because of American foreign policy. And they make the rational decision of if the American empire is obliterating and destabilizing our countries abroad, then let's go to the American empire and get some refuge. And what these monsters are saying is, not only do we want to destabilize your nation, we want to make you so uncomfortable that you don't even think about coming here. And we're going to make it that uncomfortable by targeting your children. That is monstrous.
Absolutely. And what bothers me too is, the media is a powerful tool. And I feel like on this issue specifically, we have not seen enough real coverage of what's truly happening on our border. Yeah. And I say that because I have a few friends who are independent journalists who have truly covered this issue, and it is horrific. When you start investigating the conditions in which children were put in, who are being held at the border and separated with their parents, we've seen little bits of it surface. But we haven't really seen what's happening there on a day-to-day basis. And so what it does is it allows Americans to put this issue in the back of their mind, go to work and go to school and live their life like none of this is happening. But it's horrific. And if you have children, if you're a parent, could you imagine your child being separated from you? And how that would break their spirit, the fear, the terror that they would feel, and the trauma that they would endure for the rest of their life, the separation anxiety that would never cease. That would be something that they would carry even into their adulthood, into relationships in their adulthood. And so for me, what frustrates me on this issue is not only are we seeing this judge make this ruling against it, but really this has been an issue that our country has really failed to deal with in many ways, but that has largely been covered up because media hasn't been given access to the conditions in which people are being forced into when they're trying to come here.
I'm thinking back to what Brother Anthony Galloway said last week, and he said it in pertains to the video we were watching of the Karen in the Walmart lobby who was making it difficult for a black man, putting his life at risk. And he framed it by saying that sometimes we, even as black people or as Americans, we don't realize how we can become and are or have been complicit with the very systems that oppress us through, watch this, not giving enough attention and detail to what America is doing to other people. And that's what you're saying, Georgia. What you're saying is that what's happening at the border, or at least what I believe I hear you saying, is that what's happening at the border is so uncovered in the minds of the American people that we're completely oblivious to what our country is doing to these families and to the trauma, the lifelong trauma that it's causing. Now, juxtapose that with what we're doing in their countries. Juxtapose that what we're doing across in the Middle East. There's so many things that this country does that the American people are oblivious to because we're so consumed, not only with entertainment. I don't want to insult the American people here because I need you to hear me. They have us so consumed with just trying to survive, living paycheck to paycheck, struggling, scratching and surviving. Good time. They have us so tied up with struggling to survive that we don't realize what this country is doing, not only at our border, but overseas.
And I'm glad that you brought that quote up by Brother Galloway, because I felt convicted when I heard it. I tend to have a hyper focus on certain things, and every now and then we have to look in the mirror, and we need to self-reflect, and we need to be self-aware of what our shortcomings are. And the reality of it is, if we're not educating ourselves, if we're not extending the issues that we're paying attention to and researching, then we actually become a part of the problem.
That's it.
Right. If we're not a part of the solution, we become a part of the problem. Or if we're complicit, if these things are happening and we're not doing anything, we're not saying anything, then we're complicit. So I think that is something that we should continue to keep front and center, because there are a lot of privileges that we have in being American that we take for granted even. But, the other thing that when I start really going down that path and exploring that idea, it makes me think about the quote by MLK of I fear I integrated my people into a burning house.
Yes.
Because Ben, when you start talking about the presence of America in other countries and the pain that we're inflicting on other people, what is America? And
I'm sorry, that's a hell of a question to ask somebody like you and me, Georgia. Go ahead.
What is America? And it just, are you really proud? Are you really proud to be American? And if you went in other parts of this world, not in this country, but if you go outside of this country and you go ask other people about this nation, would you walk away from those conversations truly being proud to be American?
Let's do it like this. Now, I want to preface this because I'm going to say a whole bunch of stuff here, but I'm going to preface this by saying I was properly indoctrinated by America. I was propagandized by America. I know the Constitution, the preamble by memory. I learned it in second grade. It said Pledge Allegiance, all that good stuff. I tried to be proud to be an American. But when we consider what this country does abroad, we got to understand from the perspective of the people who are on the receiving end of American foreign policy, we are not the Jedi. We are the Sith Lords. We are not the rebellion. We are Darth Vader and the Galactic Empire. We are the bad guys on the international stage in so many instances. And if you don't feel like that, if that is too uncomfortable for someone, then you really need to ask us about our foreign policy as it pertains to Yemen, right? The starvation that is happening through our proxy, Saudi Arabia, is being okayed by America. Now, we used to get so involved under Donald Trump that we were giving them logistic support, we were giving them weapon support, and then Joe Biden came in and said, okay, well, that's a little too far because we've seen too many emaciated babies on television, so let's get rid of the logistical support, but we haven't told Saudi Arabia to stand down. There's about, I believe the number is well into the hundreds of thousands of children who will die in Yemen this year. Now, ask the people of Yemen what they think about America, because we empowered Saudi Arabia, and I haven't even gone to Iraq or Afghanistan. Yeah, but God bless America, though. I want to dovetail it with this. I live in this empire. My children are growing in this empire. When I say God bless America, I don't say God bless American foreign policy. I say God bless America because I need it to work. I need it to work for the sake of my children. And so I cannot have it work for the sake of my children if it's coming at the expense of other children. See, anyway, Anyway, we out of time.
It's too much power. It's too much power. But yes, we could go on and on about this. We are on the clock, however. So we will end the conversation here. Thank you so much to those who are listening, and make sure that you stick around for more on the Benjamin Dixon Show.
Individuals to the Benjamin Dixon Show. I am joined by Georgia Fort. We just got through talking about the filibuster and American foreign policy. There's a video that I want us to discuss, and it's actually a conversation that the Surgeon General is having. And I want to, Georgia, I want to talk to you. I sometimes joke around a whole lot about weed. But there's a lot, and there's a lot of black people. I know I'm stating the obvious, but I want to preface the conversation by stating the obvious. As this country gets ready to transition into a full economy that runs around marijuana, we still got a lot of black boys and women and men in jail right now because they pioneered an industry that is getting ready to make a whole lot of white folks a whole lot of money while they're still arresting us. So I want to have this conversation about the Surgeon General, and we have some media from it. But I know you're aware of this conversation because all black people are. We're really going through a transition. What are your thoughts on this transitionary period where we're going from black people still getting arrested for weed and dispensaries opening up and people making millions of dollars off of selling weed?
I had the opportunity to travel to Amsterdam at the age of 16. And at 16, I knew a ton of people who smoked weed. And it blew my mind because you could see now people going into cafes and legally just selecting whatever kind of marijuana that they want. And my mother, she indulged, she was born in the 60s. And so it was just interesting to see the way that was embedded in their culture in a way that didn't criminalize those who chose to use it recreationally.
That's it.
And it gave me a different perspective. And so when I came back home, I've never looked at people who used marijuana as criminals. And so we've created a system, we've created a culture that criminalizes people for using marijuana. And even looking outside of our own culture, when you look at indigenous people, it is a part of their culture and different ceremonies that they do. So, my perspective is that we have found a way, like we always do, to incorporate marijuana into the capitalistic constructs, right? But I'm not surprised about that. But it is unfortunate. And I think when you parallel that to also crack cocaine and the laws that were created to disproportionately incarcerate Black people, when Black and white people were using the same drug, but they were consuming it differently.
Yeah.
And the strict sentencing guidelines for those using crack cocaine, because that was predominantly was used in the Black community, in comparison to the way that white folks consumed it, it was discrimination, right? So I think that we have a long history of criminalizing drug activity when it is the thing to do in the Black community.
When it is that okay, so we have a clip, and the clip, and we're going to play the clip, but this is a clip of the Surgeon General Vivek. I want to get his last name correct, and he is discussing that there is no value in arresting and criminalizing. Dr. Vivek Murthy says he doesn't think that there is value to individuals or to society to lock people up for marijuana use, but emphasizes that the need to let science guide our process and policy making. Georgia, before we play this clip, you just said something that really, because when it is something that is, remember when Sir Mix-a-Lot came out with Baby Got Back? We've seen an entire transition of America having this repulsion at Blackness until they have successfully co-opted it and packaged it up for their own selves. Because now they're paying for those same backs that they used to get disgusted with Sir Mix-a-Lot. I think I got the right title. It's been so long. I'm an old man. But anyway, I digress. Let's take a listen to this clip from U.S. Surgeon General Dr. Vivek Murthy as he discusses the criminalization of marijuana and arresting people who, he doesn't say it in this clip, but we know is overwhelmingly disproportionately Black people. Let's take a look.
Majority Leader Chuck Schumer introduced legislation this week to decriminalize marijuana at the federal level. From a health perspective, do you support that?
Well, when it comes to marijuana, Dan, I think we have to let science guide us. And we know that the science tells us that there are some benefits for marijuana from a medical perspective, but there are also some harms that we have to consider, and we have to put those together as we think about the right policy. Now, when it comes to decriminalization, I don't think that there is value to individuals or to society to lock people up for marijuana use. I don't think that serves anybody well. But I do think that in terms of our approach to marijuana, I worry when we don't let science guide our process and policy making. And in a Surgeon General, that's my role, is to work with policymakers, to work with members in the community and the general public to help people understand what science tells us and where you have gaps, to help fill those gaps with research and with honest inquiry.
Now, as a person who's studied the effects of marijuana on people pretty thoroughly, I will agree that we do need to be mindful of the deleterious effects. That you don't need to smoke and drive. Let's there need to be some ground rules, but we absolutely We do not. We got to stop locking people up, because it is just another way of grinding people up into this system, in this justice system. Meanwhile, we still have all these other people building these companies to make money off of it. What was your thoughts in response to the Surgeon General?
Well, I think that this is a conversation that's long overdue. I think that this is something that our country should have considered a long time ago. I think this is another example of how other countries are leading on certain issues, and we're falling behind. The one thing that I can't help but wonder is how many Black millionaires or billionaires would there be
Mm.
if marijuana wasn't illegal?
Mm.
There are so many people in our community who right now are they've been criminalized
Yeah.
because of this lifestyle. And it opens up a lot of pathways for revenue,
Yeah.
for a livelihood, without having to jump through the hoops of going to school and getting an education. Some people would be able to provide for their families,
Yeah.
especially those who were in poverty. And so now what we're going to see is a industry, as you already mentioned, Ben, that was really created and spearheaded by people in our community. Now there's going to be a tax on it. There's going to be, different um, licenses that you're going to have to pull. There's going to be all of these hoops that are going to be put in place now, and ultimately, this industry is going to be taxed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and here's the thing with it, Georgia. You're hitting on all the aspects of it that are really bothersome, because really think about this. As soon as some tobacco companies get sufficient critical mass in the marijuana industry, we're going to see joints being sold like cigarettes in gas stations. That's inevitably coming. Guess who's cut out of that? The people who are still going to be locked up in jail because we have not completely we have not released them for marijuana possession, selling. We Black people, we're not, unless we are given the opportunity to get into the industry, we will literally have pioneered yet again another institution and not be able to be the beneficiaries of it. But not only do we not benefit from it, we also are bearing the burden of the penalty of when America said it was a bad thing. And when America said it was a bad thing, it was something that we looked at and we were like, no, let's sell it. Let's move it. Let's do it. Let's do and show our business acumen. Let's show our ability to build teams. Let's show our ability. Like we have entrepreneurs in our communities who have made empires out of this, and the government has just made them illegal. And yet the very same construct is going to be packaged and put in gas stations, I would say, in the next 2 to 5 years.
And Ben, think about this. Think about the growing industry specifically, and how there have now been these modifications that have been made where marijuana, which is usually a very safe drug, right? Now you have all of these people who are experimenting, who are adding different things and making it not as safe. Had the government stepped in sooner, had the government been ahead of this and decided that, okay, this is an industry we're going to legalize and normalize, some of that stuff could have been regulated.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And so we're seeing some people thinking that they're consuming edibles or just using marijuana. And instead, you have all of these different things that have been added into it. And you have people who have bad trips, who have long lasting effects. And we've even seen some cases where people die. Had the government decided to do this sooner, there could have been some regulation to prevent those things from happening on the growing side.
Yeah. Yeah. And I do want to, just as a person who studied this, I would recommend that you know your weed man. Parents, make sure you know your kids' weed man, because I'm sure let's just, can we skip a couple steps? because a lot of times we have to walk circumspectly and act and pretend as though we are good, moral, upstanding citizens. And I'm talking about us personally, me personally, if we hint towards anything, then it gives, people get uncomfortable. Let's skip a couple steps. I want to tell y'all something. What Georgia is saying is true, right? If we, not only regulation from the government, but if we as Black people continue to allow things to be as human beings, I don't care what race you are, continue to allow things to be so taboo that we cannot discuss it with our community and our family, then yeah, your kid may get some bad weed because you didn't sit down with them and really go over what it is. We would rather ignore it, vilify it, criminalize it, lock people up instead of just having conversations with our children about some of these drugs. So that's just my thought. Get a last thought on that, and I have one more clip for you, George.
Yeah, at the end of the day, I think that it is our job as parents to guide our children. They're going to explore and experiment just like we did. And so, yeah, I think it's important to have those tough conversations, even if it's embarrassing for them, because that is ultimately the only way that they're going to have the accurate information. Because if we allow Google University or YouTube to raise our children,
wow,
how do they even know what to Google, right? And yeah, Google can be great for a lot of things, but you don't want Google raising your children. You don't want your kids seeing something on TikTok that they're not really 100% sure what it is, and so they Google it and they start, reading information from different sites. You want to be the one to get ahead of that. And sit down and talk to them and give them the accurate information and resources to find more information so that they can make solid decisions. And they'll make mistakes, but at least they'll do it, with knowing some parameters of boundaries of, okay, if you do this, do it that way. But don't venture off over here because, and you'd be surprised that even out of their curiosity and even under the influence of their friends, how much just having that background knowledge will help them make wise, responsible decisions.
Absolutely. I have one more clip, Georgia. I want you to take a look at, and it is a clip of it is a QAnon conspiracy theorist, but he's a preacher by the name of Bishop Larry Gators, and he's claiming that our beloved Chadwick Boseman did not die of cancer, but was actually assassinated. It is a ridiculous clip, but I need us to look at I need us to look at what's brewing every day on the right, because I think we don't really understand the scale of our opposition. But this is what Bishop Larry Gator said. He said Chadwick Boseman did not die of cancer, but was actually assassinated with poison because he supported Donald Trump. Let's take a look at that clip.
Told that he died of colon cancer. Now, according to my two contacts in the federal government, Chadwick Boseman, through his autopsy, died of thallium arsenic poison. Okay, that's what he died of. That's the unofficial story. But the official story says that he died of colon cancer. Why was Chadwick Boseman a threat? Chadwick Boseman was a Black conservative, like Kobe Bryant was, like Tiger Woods, like Dr. Dre, the music mogul, 50 Cent. They support President Trump. But any Black man or woman in Hollywood who supports Trump, they're targeted for death, or even in the case of Tiger Woods, his legs were crushed because the Luciferian order wanted to take him out.
All right. I want to unpack this just a little bit, not because of who the guy is, but because this argument went so viral. not just him, but the argument that he pulled it from went so viral on Facebook that Facebook had to delete the 2 posts that it came from. And I'm reading a fact check from Reuters.com, and they shared examples of this conspiracy theory. And here's basically the summary. The verdict is, or actually the summary of the conspiracy. The claim stems from an article posted on a website called Toronto Today, titled "Autopsy: Chadwick Boseman was poisoned. Homicide investigation begins." The article was posted the day after Boseman representatives released news of his death and is listed under a category on the website called Conspiracy Files. This is where this bishop, this is he pastors somebody. And the posts go so viral. By the time we get to the fact checking part of this, never mind the salaciousness of it. He died because he was a Donald Trump supporter. I don't really care about that absurdity, because we understand that that's just foolishness. But it's how far, Georgia, these lies can go before we've even got a chance to start fact checking them.
It makes me think of something you mentioned at the top of the show. The fact that we're fighting against the algorithm, we're fighting against the technology and these big social media companies to simply talk about Black issues.
Yeah.
Not harming nobody, not spreading lies. And then here you have someone who legitimately is doing that, and they're going viral. And the damage that causes, and the erosion of our society, because we have people who are hell bent on getting clicks and being famous and going viral, that they will do it at the expense of compromising truth.
They have no compunction whatsoever. In fact, they are incentivized. The algorithm incentivizes this type of behavior, and it penalizes truth tellers. It does. And this is why at the opening monologue, I was like, I'm not going to go into the reasons we were suspended on YouTube, because I have found that even when we're right, sometimes when you state the truth, it still seems like, sour grapes, and I'm like, I'm not going to argue with YouTube publicly. I'm going to argue with their asses privately for sure. But that said, they incentivize this type of behavior because it does do exactly what you said, Georgia. It drives clicks. And now you have 2 viral articles. Both had to be pulled from Facebook. But now you have these videos that are all over the web because, well, the videos can stay up, but the articles come down. But video content is just as compelling. We got thousands upon thousands of videos out here that are spreading conspiratorial lies that ultimately get people killed also. Because in this QAnon category of conspiracy theories, it's not just about trying to convince everybody that Donald Trump is a savior. It's also about pushing away science as it pertains to COVID-19. And we're at the beginning stages of the Delta variant stage. And we have this level of conspiracy theory able to run unabated without direct interaction from the social media companies, who are like Mark Zuckerberg. They're becoming more and more leery in terms of interacting and stopping this misinformation. So we are at a huge disadvantage here, Georgia.
Yeah, and I think that is very telling. We have a strike that's happening on TikTok where Black creators are pulling out and legitimately protesting the social media platform. And I'm surprised we haven't seen more of that on other platforms, because there is a lot of exploitation of Black content, and there are a lot of limitations and restrictions that are placed on content that is truthful. But as it pertains to Black lives, as it pertains to anything pro-Black, you automatically, especially those who are content creators professionally, people who are Black are automatically going to earn less money in this profession than people who are white if they have a focus on Black Lives Matter, covering anything with that. They don't even have to be like supporting it or encouraging people to like participate. But if they're talking about it,
Yeah.
if they're just talking about it, or anything that's pro-Black. And there have been studies, and people have done screen records on the back end of their social media platforms when they're uploading stuff to show people, to give evidence of this. And so the thing for me, to see content that is not based on facts, that is allowed to circulate, I think at some point we have to start to hold these social media platforms accountable, because they're exploiting this content, and ultimately they are contributing to this era that we're in about fake news and people not trusting truthful sources, because they've had so many experiences with content and information that's been put out there as facts that it's not. So I encourage people to be skeptical. When you hear and see someone who is talking about someone they don't know, do some research, do additional research. I'm not saying everyone is lying, but that is gossip. If I even in the political realm, when we sit here and we're talking about these politicians, we're getting second, third, fourth, fifth hand information. We're doing our research, we're analyzing it, we're fact checking, but we're, to some degree, unless we're sitting down and we know these people and we're interviewing them ourselves, then it's the same thing with celebrities and athletes. It's regurgitated information. It's like the game of telephone. Remember when we were kids?
Yeah.
You sit in a circle and you whisper, and by the time it gets all the way back around, it's not the same message. And so we all have to approach content consumption with some skepticism, because most of the people on the internet are regurgitating information as opposed to giving you facts.
I think that's exactly it, Georgia. We have to teach everyone, especially our children, how to consume content critically. We cannot allow anyone to consume content online uncritically, because you got to think about it. I told my kids this. I told my kids that I asked my kids their favorite YouTuber, what is their agenda? And they were like, huh? At first. And I was like, well, what is your dad's agenda? You see me, I get up every morning, I'm up late at night, and they said, what is your agenda? Now, they've been around my house long enough to know that I'm actually naive enough and foolish enough to think that we can save the world. So they answered, you want to save the world, right? Daddy wants to save the world. Now, what is your content creator's agenda? If we do not approach content that way, then we would have consumed all kinds of content without any reflection as it pertains to what the agenda of that person who created that content wanted in the first place. That's number one. The second thing, Georgia, back to your point, I have, and I'm going to drop in the podcast version of today's show, I'm going to drop in a clip from an interview I did with Leon Yin back in April. And it was based on his article called Google Blocks Advertisers from Targeting Black Lives Matter YouTube Videos. And I interviewed him, and it's at themarkup.org. And we discussed how YouTube literally has a list of terms. Black Lives Matter is one of those terms. And if that is in your video, you will not be able to monetize. Yeah. You're on a block list. So you were bringing up the technology portion, and we've covered that, and it is absolutely the case. We're fighting on a lot of fronts, and we need every advantage that we can get. And I think, as you're stating, the most strategic advantage that we can get is to help people understand how to consume content critically. Get the last word for me, Jordan.
Yeah, the last thing I'd just like to say how absolutely ridiculous your boy sounded. We can sit here and we can talk about this on a higher level, but I mean, let's just talk about the elephant in the room. Yeah. Your boy sounds ridiculous. Just
stupid, right?
Just,
like, bro, do you see how dumb you sound? Like, why are people so proud of being so popular? Dumb. Like, I have anxiety about going viral over something stupid like a typo or something. And these folks are out here going full throated Donald Trump stupid. Go ahead, George. I'm sorry.
Yeah, just proud to be dumb. It's one thing to be dumb, but proud to be dumb. That's another level.
Georgia, I want to cut it there unless you got something better than that. Hey, thanks so much for hanging out with me for this segment, Georgia. And on the clock, great work. Thank you so much for being a part of what we do here. You know, I don't want to, I really enjoy working with you. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, Rebecca Azor is going to join us. DJ Exclusive is out today. He's been doing a lot of traveling. Y'all saw him on Friday. He had his camera with him as he was traveling, so he's getting some rest today. Didn't get back to 4 o'clock this morning. Rebecca's going to join us. Georgia, thanks again. We'll see you in the morning.
Absolutely. Take care.
Take care. We'll be right back after this. We're going to be back with more Like It or Not in 1 second. We want to make sure that you say hello to someone in the chat room. Hit that like, share, and subscribe button. Introduce yourself to someone, and let's keep it going. Like It or Not is coming up next.
forever. The truth is hard, like so much better. Won't you let me stay here forever? Light up in the sky, filled with treasure. Won't you let me stay here forever? The truth is hard, like so much better. Won't you let me stay here forever? Light up in the sky, filled with treasure.
Swipe. Just picked up some bands, come again. They do what I do, I'm like Simon Says. Yeah, I'm the running man, rapping rubber bands. They do what I do, I'm like Simon Says. They do what I do, I'm like Simon Says. Swerving, making
Welcome back,
plays,
everybody.
Ferrari red. Never out my zone, touchdown in my hands.
Welcome back.
Only fam around me, I can't have no friends.
I want to go. I want to take a look at some clips here. I want to take a look at a clip of Tucker Carlson as he hosts a COVID truther. Now, just so you know what a COVID truther is, at this juncture, I think you should understand that there's a whole lot of people out here who are not taking this pandemic seriously. And it is people are dying. The number of people who are dying is going up because of the level of stupidity that we have in this country with regard to COVID-19. Tucker Carlson is platforming someone who is helping to spread those conspiracy theories by the name of Alex Berenson. And he's going to tell viewers that, quote, COVID vaccines are, quote, declining in effectiveness very quickly. Let's take a look at the first clip.
Joins us now. Alex, thanks so much for coming on.
Hi, Tucker.
There's just so much here, and you may know too much to give a crisp answer. So I'm just going to throw it out to you. How do you assess the developments I just explained?
So, look, masks are useless for their wearers. Again, we've known this for at least a year. We have a randomized controlled trial showing it. They probably do little to nothing for source control, i.e. to block the transmission of virus. We've known that too. Maybe if you decide to wear an N95 mask and have it on your face.
Hang on. Bring me on the screen. Bring me on the put us on the B-roll shot for that. I got to interrupt because this is why we got suspended last time. We got the documents, David, right? We got the documents. I got to pause it in the middle of it because last time we got suspended was because of a clip that we played from Donald Trump where he was spreading COVID misinformation. Our channel got suspended because of COVID misinformation that Donald Trump was spreading in one of his speeches. We got the receipts. So I just want to interrupt this now. So to say that if we get suspended again, it's because, well, we're trying to debunk COVID misinformation and the algorithms that we're fighting against aren't intelligent enough or the people who created them don't care enough to make that kind of distinction. Don't mean to get too upset about it, but what he's saying is so dangerous that we have to debunk it. But I know in the process of debunking it, we are putting our channel at risk because, well, that's how it works in this digital space. Let's start the clip again. Keep us in a B-roll setting, and maybe that'll give us a chance to not be suspended. Let's take a look at it.
Alex, thanks so much for coming on.
Hi, Tucker.
There's just so much here, and you may know too much to give a crisp answer. So I'm just going to throw it out to you. How do you assess the developments I just explained?
So, look, masks are useless for their wearers. Again, we've known this for at least a year. We have a randomized controlled trial showing it. They probably do little to nothing for source control, i.e. to block the transmission of virus. We've known that too. Maybe if you decide to wear an N95 mask and have it on your face the whole time, you're out and never touch it, you get some minor benefit, although even that is not really proven. As you said, I mean, what I've grown to conclude over the last 12 months is that masks are very simply symbolic. All they are is a sign you are in a dangerous time. You need to listen to us. If I don't see people wearing masks, I forget to be scared. And that's why they want people wearing masks. And it just could not be clearer.
The psychological damage they're doing here. So we're now told there's a third wave. And this may undercut the effectiveness of the vaccines. How effective are the vaccines? Do we know so far?
The vaccines, unfortunately, appear to be declining in effectiveness very quickly. And I believe this is why Twitter has me blocked. So I've been blocked for 12 hours, Tucker. But this is a very clear warning signal. I've never been blocked on Twitter before. And I've written a lot of stuff about masks and, lockdowns and lots of stuff that people have not liked, even though it's all been backed by data, all been backed by, primary government sources and scientific papers and stuff. Vaccines appear to me to be a third rail. There's tremendous public health pressure, and there's also tremendous financial pressure in favor of these
Okay, so obviously it's filled with misinformation, and I'm starting there again because YouTube's algorithm doesn't seem to know the difference between debunking misinformation and spreading misinformation. But I digress. The first thing that jumped out to me in this clip is the fact that he's saying that masks don't work. We know that's not true. We do know that masks do, and specifically because he's trying to muddy. Let me unpack this correctly. He's trying to muddy and conflate the difference between wearing a mask to protect yourself and wearing a mask to protect someone else. Wearing a mask to protect yourself, we have seen that it is not as effective if somebody else recognizing that they should wear a mask. It is our wearing of a mask that protects other people more than it protects ourselves. And it is because that this virus has this unique feature that the only way to really stop it is if we have a sense of collectivism, the sense of working together. And because it is incumbent upon those of us who have COVID-19, or simply as a statement of solidarity, to wear a mask to prevent us from spreading anything. The instances of flu have gone down because people have been wearing masks. Respiratory illnesses have been proven to be able to be minimized by people wearing masks. And so what he's done in this clip, Alex Berenson, what he's done is he's conflating you wearing a mask to protect yourself versus you wearing a mask to protect someone else. We need you to wear a mask to protect other people. And this is what he's conflating in this clip. That's number one. Then he said N95 masks don't work. I'm sure there are a lot of doctors who are still alive today who would like to have a word with you, Alex. Last but not least, we're on Fox News, the biggest platform in the country. Tucker Carlson has between 3 to 4 million people who watch him every single night. And if you really want to know why it is that the Delta variant is starting to spread and why people are starting to die more, why we were on our way out of the pandemic, but now we're seeing us turning back towards more people dying, more hospitalizations, more infection rates. It's because there's so much misinformation out there that it is literally contributing to the rise and spread of COVID-19. TheGuardian.com said majority of COVID misinformation came from 12 people, a report finds. The CCDH finds disinformation dozen have combined following of 59 million people across multiple social media platforms. I got to break that down again. And we're going to bring Rebecca Azor to the conversation, David, whenever you're ready. The vast majority, I'm reading directly from The Guardian. The vast majority of COVID-19 anti-vaccine misinformation and conspiracy theories originated from just 12 people. A report by the Center for Countering Digital Hate, cited by the White House this week, found. The CCDH, it is a United States, Britain nonprofit and non-governmental organization found that in March that just 12 online personalities have dubbed those 12 people as the disinformation dozen. They have a combined following of 59 million people across social media platforms, with Facebook having the largest impact. 812,000 Facebook posts and tweets have found 65% of the disinformation came from just 12 people. This shows you the kind of impact and the reach that these platforms have. Now, I just got this article. I haven't had a chance to finish reading it. And Rebecca, I want to bring you in on this conversation. But Tucker, we're looking at the graphs this week, and the number of infections have gone up. The number of hospitalizations have gone up, and the number of deaths have gone up. And Tucker Carlson's talking to 4 million people, 3 to 4 million people every single night. And here we are with him putting this on national television last week, and people are dying. How you doing this morning, Rebecca?
I'm doing okay. I apologize. I was having a rough login. But Tucker Carlson spreading misinformation has been the agenda this whole time, right? Because when they speak to the power of their people, when they speak to the power of the far right or the conspiracy theorists who want to have a reason not to take the vaccine, it helps their platform grow, and it helps people trust them giving more misleading information more often. We've seen this. This is nothing new. I mean, we've seen this a lot of times in politics. But now the difference is he not only has them on television, he has them in social media, and he has them. Social media is a very powerful tool. Facebook being one space for that older conservative crowd to create groups and to create more ways to spread the misinformation that is led by people like Tucker Carlson, who they trust. And if they hear that from verified pages, or hear that news from verified pages, or hear that from people like that one man, I forget his name, who talked about the conspiracy theorists about those kids that were shot up. You know, those kids that were murdered.
Oh, Alex Jones.
Yeah, Alex Jones.
Yeah.
And then we have the Marjorie Taylor Greens in the world as well. And we don't only have people who are spreading misinformation on that side of it, though. We even have our own who are out there who are saying things like, hey, it's not, and I understand the fear of it. I understand the fear of getting the vaccine. I understand, being confused. I understand those kind of things, not knowing where to go, or if it's, some people still don't know if it's free, so just that misinformation in itself. But then you do have our people, or people even on our side who are saying, that's why I ain't get it. Saw that person die, saw that person do this, saw that person this, and that's us doing a disservice as well to our own, when we're probably more likely the ones who are going to not get the best health care when it comes to that. Hey, Jeremiah.
Yeah, it's Jada went back to work today.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I'm multitasking.
Everybody is going. They're trying to get us all to go. Look, I digress, bro. But they trying to get everybody to go back August, September, and it ain't right. But is she still at home though?
No. Well, today she had to go in, but for the most part, she's going to be at home. So today and this week, I'll probably be. Y'all see Jeremiah.
Yeah. You need to be looking over because the mischief will be in the corner.
Okay? Oh, he's over. Yeah, he's got something now. Finish what you were saying.
So no, while Ben gets the baby together, I say all this to say there's a lot of misinformation and I hate to say this phrase because it takes me back to when the Orange Man was in office, but it's coming from all sides. But most important, there is a big reach with short arms from the right, though. I will say that because of their.
What do you mean by that? That is I love that. I love that saying. Yeah. Break that thing down for me. Far reach with short arms.
Yeah, they're like, they're reaching with short arms. It's kind of like what they're doing is sending all of this misinformation, and they're with this big audience taking it and continuing to spread it. But when you get to them, it's kind of like you're asking them, are they vaccinated? Right. They're going to tell you yes, right? And then you're going to ask them, why shouldn't people get vaccinated? Real questions, not them explaining to you in a monologue. You're going to ask them real questions. Well, do you know what the CDC said? And beyond the CDC, have you spoken to medical professionals in the area?
Right.
People who have had it? They don't have any of this information. They only did just minimal of the research. And what they did was create a monologue to make it sound strong and to make it sound good. Okay. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say that's the thing, right? It's the monologue. They make it sound so convincing. They make and this is why video content is so dangerous, because it gives you a level of assurance that there are other people who honestly think the same way that you do. And when you put these dummies on television like Tucker Carlson does as a matter of course, then you have other people who are like, oh, okay, so then maybe I'm not crazy. Maybe I'm not a conspiracy theorist because it's on Fox News. And people literally make this calculation, Rebecca. They say, well, they wouldn't let it on Fox News if it wasn't true. Little do you know is that they in that sentence, the government, they don't give a damn what Fox News says. They've been lying to you for 20, 30 years, however long they've been on air. but
Right.
people really make that conscious decision. I want to share a couple of these names of the disinformation dozen. These folks don't know how to name names. That's hard to say. The disinformation dozen. Why don't you just say the Raggedy 12? All right. Anyway, the Lion 12. Joseph Mercola. He is a anti-vaccination entrepreneur. He's peddling dietary supplements and false cures rather, as alternative medicines to vaccines, alternatives to vaccines. He made the post and he has over 3.6 million followers. That post went extremely viral. His Facebook account, his Twitter account, and his Instagram account are still active. He has that much reach. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Jeremiah, let me finish my work, buddy. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. This is the son of Robert Kennedy, who was assassinated, who was a presidential candidate. I believe it was 68 or 69. I lost track of the date. 68, actually. Robert F. Kennedy, his Facebook is active and his Twitter is active. And he's been spreading misinformation, posts that have gone extremely viral to the tune of millions of people. I can go on and on and on. There's 12 of them. I'll insert them after the fact. But Rebecca, these people have reach. They have platforms, they have audiences, and their accounts weren't suspended. But ours, my YouTube page was, and we've seen so many times, it happens to us all the time. But these people get away literally with leading to death. They get away with murder because this anti-vax message is getting people killed.
So looks like David just put that Robert F. Kennedy banned from IG. IG. Listen, do you think those people are on IG? That's not where their audiences are. There are, you know, who's doing more work for them on on IG? It's the ones that are like rocking the American flags at a brunch. Those they have that particular audience on IG who will be at a brunch and having small conversations. The other day I went running, up the mountain, and as I was running, I saw a man just lying and screaming into his Instagram, a white man. He was like, he's just running and he was talking to somebody about business, got off the business, then was like, did you get up off your behind today? Because if you don't get off your behind, there are 3 things I'm going to tell you why. Go look at my last video and I'm going to tell you why to get off your behind and do what you need to do. I just ran up this mountain. What are you doing? As he was catching his breath, I watched him do the video like 3 times out of breath. Because that mountain whooped his behind, and he was taking I watched him. But the thing is, when he got online, because this is what we do online, right? When he got online, he was giving people the idea that he ran up and it was cool, and he's a hard worker and you need to get up and do whatever, because he had just got off a call with somebody else talking about how he's about to do this business pool right now, like how he's about to grab the people. That's what they do. I mean, that's what we all do. But Instagram is not particularly for this particular following when it comes to that. Instagram does what the rest of them do and do that check if you do have a word COVID in your stories or COVID on your page or whatever. They'll just say, they'll have a link, a clickable link that sends you over to the CDC to get correct information. Boom. Facebook over the weekend wrote an article on Facebook saying that they are.
Wait. Facebook wrote an article on Facebook?
They wrote an article on Facebook, basically on themselves and they were saying, stop the finger pointing.
Because they don't want to. Facebook don't want to take the blame for COVID. I saw that.
Exactly.
I saw that.
Yeah. So they don't want, but they were saying how Facebook is leading and bringing the conversation and to get people aware of what's going on. So I seen that and I'm like, it's interesting because people like the ones you just named, the 12, people like them will use the people in their cult to create pages, and these pages garner numbers. Pages garner numbers. So they call us the woke. I've seen pages that garner numbers with woke stuff on it. That's just, and no offense, but some of the woke stuff is very, very questionable. And you have those with the conspiracy theorists who are alt-right Nazi, and their pages garner a lot of attention as well. It makes for good Facebook.
Just for context, Rebecca, the live streams of these anti-vaxxers and these right-wing conspiracy theorists and these fascists, they get like 10, 20,000 people watching them live. So
yeah, they do.
The algorithm really does prefer
misinformation.
This misinformation.
It's beautiful because let me tell you something. I know that I may be opinionated when it comes to our commentary, but that's my job, right?
Right.
But before that, I drop it as facts, which you do too. We got to reach out. We got to make sure that's our job, right? As journalists. And then when we go to the commentary side, we say our feelings, we say how we feel, whatever the case may be. But you know that when you come to the show, what you're going to get.
Right.
And if we're ever wrong on something that is actual information that may
We'll
hurt
correct
someone, we will correct it. But a lot of these pages and a lot of these people will place themselves as actual expertise on a matter. Don't even bring nobody on. It be just them sometimes, many times. It be just them sitting in the room. If they don't like what the person that they brought on said, they'll kick them off and they'll continue their conversation with the audience. And that'll be giving the misinformation, because what it is to make you feel good.
Yeah.
It's to speak to you guys so you can keep coming back. And
it's to tell them what they want to hear,
no matter what. And then they'll have an example. If somebody were to die tomorrow of the COVID variant, being fully vaccinated with COVID-19, which is pretty rare. The numbers are rare for that to happen.
Yeah, right.
But if somebody were to, what they would do is make that the end all be all for everything. That would be the cover story. That would be exactly what is leading. No matter what's going on locally, it could be about 6 domestic terrorists right now on the ground. But that COVID story of that one person dying from the COVID variant being fully vaccinated will be top of the morning, top of the evening, midday news.
Exactly. It would be all around, even though it's rare, even though it's like 1 in a million. You got better chances of getting struck by lightning or whatever the real odds are. It's rare, but you're right. It would be the number one thing on the news. I want you to, Rebecca, you know, I love it when shout out to James. James was traveling, DJ Exclusive. He is recovering. He got back in super late. So thanks, James.
When you gotta work, you gotta do that third job.
You gotta do that third job. But I love to hear both you and James talk about these evangelical pastors. This is a clip that I want you to watch, and then I know you have a whole bunch of clips that you want to go over. We're going to watch all those. But this is a right-wing pastor conspiracy theorist, and this is from Right Wing Watch. Now, Right Wing Watch is a project for the people from the People for the American Way, and it monitors and exposes the activities of radical right-wing political organizations. And on Friday, they shared a clip of the right-wing pastor Rodney Howard Brown. And in this clip, he's saying that an unvaccinated person who has a healthy immune system is going to be spreading a virus. It doesn't make sense what he says, but I want you to understand that it doesn't have to make sense for it to go viral. Let's take a look at this clip.
Vaccinate yourself, shoot up all you want to. Listen, people are smoking weed and snorting cocaine. Do whatever. But just because you do it doesn't mean to say you have to force anybody else to do it. There's no way that an unvaccinated person who has a healthy immune system is going to be spreading any virus. It doesn't work that way. That's not how it spreads. It spreads from people that are infected and that are sickly.
David, run that clip for me one more time.
Okay.
It didn't register. Did it register with you?
That last statement, I just need to hear that one more again to say.
Yeah, run it one more time.
To hear, like,
you vaccinate yourself, shoot up all you want to. Listen, people are smoking weed and snorting cocaine. Do whatever.
I'm on heroin now.
Just because you do it doesn't mean to say you have to force anybody else to do it. There's no way that an unvaccinated person who has a healthy immune system is going to be spreading any virus. It doesn't work that way. That's not how it spreads. It spreads from people that are infected and that are sickly.
Oh,
he realizes what he said was just dumb as
it spreads from people that are sickly and infected. That's why we created the
vaccine.
The vaccine. Let me tell y'all something.
Oh my God.
Go get your people, because not only is Tucker Carlson leading a flock, these ones we talked about the social media ones, right? Social media 12. This one is leading the church flock, the church folks who are out here like that need this misinformation, but from Jesus, from people who love the Lord, from people who love white Jesus.
Yeah.
They needed to be in this form. And for him, it was so misinforming that he
couldn't even register it himself.
He said, listen, if 1 + 1 = 2, how dare it equal 2?
Wait, I got him the show. Get out
Hey, oh wow, that is crazy. He got so much older. The pandemic made him about 12 years old. Is that how he is?
No, he's about to turn 11 soon. So yeah, you're in
That
the
is
right range.
crazy because I remember he was like what 6, 7.
Mhm.
Lord, that's crazy. Where my kids at? I ain't got
Hey, my apologies to everybody who's watching the show. I know we try to keep it
that's
slow.
all
Going. We got to do what we got to do. What you were
Yes,
saying,
we
River.
do.
He
Yeah.
said 1 + 1 = 2. How the hell does 1 + 1 = 2? Is what he's asking.
No, he's looking like damn. 1 + 1 does equal 2. Damn.
That's it.
That's what he went through just now. It was like damn.
I'm gonna play the last portion of the clip one more time because he realizes in the middle of saying it, he said, "Oh yeah, I guess that is how." That's why we need the vaccine. Play it one more time, David.
And sniffing, snorting cocaine, do whatever. But just because you do it doesn't mean to say you have to force anybody else to do it. There's no way that an unvaccinated person who has a healthy immune system is going to be spreading any virus. It doesn't work that way.
I got to pause it right there. It literally, so they become unhealthy when they get the virus. And that's why they take the vaccine so that they won't get unhealthy from the virus. But
talk about it. Wait, can we unpack this one too? Because we missed it. I forgot to go into it even more. I'm a heroin addict. I like crack. I like shooting up crack cocaine.
Who shoots up?
I am a meth head. That's exactly what he's telling me. And shout out to the people who are responsibly doing drugs. Shouts out to Dr. Carl Hart. This is not it. This is what this man is telling me. I am on drugs. That's
Rebecca, wait, I'm gonna give you a pro tip for this industry. Okay, I gotta give you never say a phrase that someone can cut off in soundbite.
No, it's cool. No, this right here, I've learned no matter what I say, they can cut off anything, merge it together, tape it
you
together.
just said,
I saw what they did recently to Cardi B, where like it's just they can do whatever, and she fought back until she realized this is just gonna happen forever. So I really don't care.
All right. So what the vibes you're getting from this man is that that he doing a little something.
Yes. No, he's telling me that I'm doing this. He's saying that, but this is the thing. Me being vaccinated now has turned into me being a drug addict.
Yeah.
And now that I'm a drug addict, I'm forcing other people. Now, on top of me being a drug addict, I'm peer pressuring people.
Right. That's part.
That's what I'm doing with my life.
Don't shoot up crack cocaine because that's the same as getting the vaccine.
What's in that vaccine is not something that's going to save me. It's drugs. It's me being addictive to what's in that vaccine. Mm-hmm. That is where my issue lies. He just called me all kinds of drug addict, all kinds of it. Okay, and I could be responsible if for all I know, but. He just called me all kinds of drug addicts, and that's not the case. That's another very, very misleading point that I haven't heard, and this is new. But let me tell you about that flock of his. They're gonna say I knew it, and their daughter's gonna come home and say she was vaccinated. They're gonna say, "I bind you in the name of Jesus, you drug addict. I bind you in the name of Jesus, you drug addict." And that's exactly what we're gonna start seeing online. Conversations, groups that are going to form that are saying what the truth about the vaccine being addictive, an addictive drug that has cocaine in it.
Okay. We got to go down the list. First, it had the mark of the beast in it. Then it had a GPS chip in it. These are all YouTube. We are making fun of the misinformation. Just in case the algorithm does not understand. We are making and mocking to scorn. We're mocking to scorn all these COVID idiots because first they said it had the mark of the beast. Then they said it had a GPS tracker in it. Then it said it was going to give you superhuman powers, which I don't see why the problem is. Can I get a second dose, third dose? Then now he's saying it's analogous to smoking, shooting up with crack cocaine and snorting marijuana is what Jermaine basically said. Okay.
Not snorting marijuana. You can't snort marijuana, can you? I don't really know. But snorting crack cocaine, the sugar booger, all kinds. Okay.
Now, I know he said cocaine, but I feel like I just felt the racism of crack cocaine.
Marijuana, because for Haitians, marijuana, all of that is crack. It's cocaine. They actually just did like a meme on that. But every drug is crack.
Let's take a quick break, Rebecca. When we come back, I know we got some stories.
Get them babies together.
I need to take a break, get these babies stationary. We're gonna take a quick break. One song, not James, but David, take us to the break. When we come back, more Like It or Not right after this.
My soul got the same on my necklace. Light it up.
Welcome back, ladies, gentlemen, non-gender conforming individuals. Let's I want to move to this next story. Rebecca, you're following this story with Coco Golf. Now I always like to say she attends the church that I attended down in Fort Lauderdale.
You love to say it, which is great because I would say it too.
I do. Hey, she goes to my church, right? If I had still been there, I would have been her choir director, back in the day. But I hadn't been in church in many.
But she had been in the choir, maybe a praise dancer. I don't know.
She might have been a praise dancer. I don't know. It's been a while, but I don't know her personally because I
probably would have been on the drums. It's 2021.
Yeah. She could have been. She probably could have played the organ better than me. That said, we're praying for our little sister because she's not going to make the
represent the USA at the Olympics, and I hope there will be many more chances for me to make this come true in the future. I know that she made this statement in her statement to social media on Twitter. She said, "I'm so disappointed to share the news that I have tested positive for COVID and won't be able to play in the Olympic Games in Tokyo. It has always been a dream of mine to represent the USA at the Olympics, and I hope there will be many more chances for me to make this come true in the future. And I wish the team USA best of luck and safe games for every Olympian and the entire Olympic family." You know what? It kills me. We're a very open country now. We open, right? We open. Everybody, we outside. That's been the hashtag. We outside. There are so many songs with it. We outside. I can't lie. I hashtagged it a few times. We outside, followed by wax and vaxxed, right? But few days, it's been getting real. I remember I went to the grocery store and I'm like, chest getting a little tight. And this is after hearing about the COVID variant coming out. I'm like, chest getting a little tight. I can't do it, Lord. I don't want to go like this.
I'm serious.
So right now I have on my stove my lemongrass.
Your home remedies.
My home remedy. Lemongrass mint tea with a hint of ginger and a thing of cinnamon inside. And I've been boiling that for 2 days straight because I refuse, and I'm vaccinated, but I refuse. So I don't know how much more people need to understand COVID-19 is not gone. COVID-19 may be gone. We had COVID-21, baby. And we need people to understand, just continue to wear your mask. I know there are times that I forget. I do. Yeah. I walk into the store and I do forget. And it's coming to the point where I don't turn around to go to the car. I've already had my shopping cart filled, things like that, because I got my music in my ear and I'm at the register and I've already done gone through. I used to turn around and go to my car and go get my mask, but lately it's been like, hey, but then I had to remind myself, I was talking to my girlfriend and we were both discussing this. We still want to make sure that we're taking precautions that we can to protect ourselves. Even though we do want to make our way back outside, we don't want to spend another time in quarantine again, where we're just closed off to the world. But if we don't treat it like, hey, okay, let me wear my mask. Let me make sure I'm continuously washing my hands. Let me make sure that the crowds of people that I'm around aren't huge, these gatherings. Let's make sure
we gotta keep on. We're in a pandemic
that we had in the beginning. We got to keep on doing those. But the facts remain. The numbers are going up. But what's going to happen is either two things. Joe Biden is going to say shut it down again because there's a city in LA that is back in quarantine, and I can't remember what city it is, but there is a city in LA, California, that is back in quarantine that has shut down again because the numbers got so damn high. So
that's the situation. I want to read this little bit because you mentioned what's going on in Tokyo. But according to the Huffington Post, COVID-19 cases in Tokyo are on the rise. You mentioned the protests as a result of this, and on Thursday, the number of new infections reached 1,300, the highest in 6 months. So the Olympics are scheduled to begin on July 24th, and while they are going to have minimal audiences or no audiences at all, it is on the rise. COVID-19 is on the rise. And
because Ben has a daughter, y'all. I'm sorry, but Ben has a daughter for those who never met her. He has a daughter as well. Look, because I'm trying to be nosy.
Yeah. All right. That's it. Hey, you know what, Rebecca? Let's go to the after party. We're going a little bit early today. It's a little easier for me to manage.
Yeah, he has to do 2 jobs right now. Go ahead. Let's go ahead and go into the after party. You want to take a quick break before we go into the after party?
Let's take a quick break. We got that. We got the information we need for. We're gonna go to a quick break. I'm gonna go get my kids straightened out. Everyone, go to patreon.com/like it or not. Become a patron. Support our show. The show is growing. Shout out to everyone. Could like, share, and subscribe. Thank you so much, David. It's in your hands. We're gonna go to after party. I'm gonna get these. I don't know what's going on out here. No, they probably got my couch is probably outside in the backyard. I'll be right back after this.
All right.
Just picked up some bands, come again. They do what I do, I'm like Simon Says. Yeah, I'm the running man, rapping rubber bands. They do what I do, I'm like Simon Says. They do what I do, I'm like Simon Says. Swerving, making plays, cool Ferrari red. Never out my zone, touchdown in my hands. Only fam around me, I can't have no friends. Had to cut you off, you left me out for dead. Ever since I was a teen, had prices on my head. Had to cut you off, you left me out for dead. They do what I do, I'm like Simon Says. Just picked up some bands, come again. They do what I do, I'm like Simon Says. Yeah, I'm the running man, rapping rubber bands. They do what I do, I'm like Simon Says. Just picked up some bands, come again. They do what I do, I'm like Simon Says. Yeah, I'm the running man.
Don't feel right. I still wanna party with her. Oh yeah. Even when it don't feel right. You know I'ma party with her. We be chillin' off the Wednesday, slept until it's Thursday. She don't wanna leave me, not just yet. Told me all about last Friday when she went all crazy. Didn't go to bed till Saturday. I don't want